So Donald Trump is not playing. Donald Trump is for real about this deportation crisis. Donald Trump is for real about the crackdowns of ICE getting these illegals out of major cities, and Chicago is on his list.
The price of freedom is death. We're coming to get our check.
All right, family, welcome, family. Okay, thank you all for being here with us this evening. We have much to discuss before we get started, because we've had some technical issues in the past, and we don't want to continue. We don't want to get that started with the technical issues we may have now. How do I sound? Is the sound okay? Is the sound good? Let me know how I sound. Let me know everything, how everything needs to be, if it's all good, if it's great, or whatever. Just let me know. Okay, hold on. People are saying things sound great, things look great. So we're gonna get started because we got much to discuss. I just want to make sure that we don't have any technical issues or nothing like that going on. Just want to make sure of that. As you guys are hitting that like button, I'm gonna get some stuff set up. But what I really need to do is I really need to hit the subscribe, and I really need to play the copyright disclaimer to establish to YouTube that everything we play thus forth will be protected under the guise of fair use, because this is fair use. This is commentary and all that good stuff. All right. So as I'm doing that, what I would appreciate you guys do is hit that like button, because we got to go in. We have to go in, family. All right. Be right back. Copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. All right, first off, I want to say this. Donald Trump, this is actually Donald Trump who put this out. This AI generated image is Donald Trump, and he followed that up with a message saying, quote, and this is the sitting president of the United States of America saying, quote, "I love the smell of deportations in the morning." Chicago about to find out why it's called the Department of War. For you all who may not be aware, Donald Trump has officially changed the name of the Department of Defense to now the Department of War. So it is official by executive order that we no longer have a Department of Defense. We only have a Department of War. And he's saying it's about to be wartime on Chicago. And a lot of people saying they don't think he's really playing with it. Okay. There's already been some crackdowns. Now, a lot of people are saying that he's probably going to send the National Guard. He's been threatening to send the National Guard. He's been talking about it. But ICE is already out here doing what they're doing. Look at this.
In Chicago, seen here arresting a man from Mexico, ICE says, was wanted for aggravated sexual assault of a child.
You try and reason with people like in Chicago with the governor and the mayor. You try and reason with them, and it's like you're talking to a wall.
Over the weekend, President Trump posting an AI-generated image of himself with the phrase, "Shipocalypse now." The caption, "I love the smell of deportations in the morning." The president saying he is still considering sending the National Guard there to reduce crime.
We'd love to go into Chicago and straighten it out. We're bringing back law and order to our country.
Over the last 2 weekends, there have been 14 homicides and at least 76 people shot in Chicago, with one alderman telling us National Guard troops would free up police.
I absolutely support the Trump administration bringing in more federal resources. Our city needs as much help as we could possibly get.
But Chicago's Democratic mayor is increasingly pushing back, writing the city just experienced record low homicide numbers, making this the safest summer since the 1960s.
Our communities remain united more than ever against the administration's attempt to unleash the military, National Guard, and rogue ICE agents on our city and state.
Today, in a legal victory for the president, a conservative Supreme Court majority loosened restrictions on ICE operations in L.A. But in her dissent, liberal Justice Sonia Sotomayor writing, "We should not have to live in a country where the government can seize anyone who looks Latino, speaks Spanish, and appears to work a low-wage job." Tonight, the White House insisting it does not target people based on race.
It's a multitude of factors to establish reasonable suspicion. But if an illegal alien has an MS-13 tattoo on his head, that's certainly going to be one of the factors that we consider.
Meanwhile, our NBC News poll shows the president's approval rating at just 43%. 57% disapprove.
Okay, so a lot of people are going to disapprove it, and this is normal. This is to be expected. Everybody understands this, that people are not going to like this. You got a whole bunch of people who are upset and they're protesting, and people not liking this. Now, Donald Trump has said he's going to send the National Guard out. He has not sent the National Guard out. I hope he doesn't, okay, because the only reason why I was suspecting that he was going to send it out is to really bypass a lot of the ICE laws and stuff like that from the sanctuary city stuff. Now, there are laws that prevent, in sanctuary cities, that prevent the cooperation of the police and ICE, okay? The Democratic Party has set these things up. So, to a degree, it can almost be a necessary thing in order for them to get the job done, in order for the ICE agents to come in this. This is a LA County sheriff who admits that even if they have orders to turn over an illegal immigrant who's a criminal, there's laws in the LA County, and there's laws in LA, the city, and then there's laws in the county that prevent them from doing that. Listen to this.
Document when ICE sends us detainer request, so we know, based right now on the numbers I gave you earlier, at least for this year, I think there's 435 people that they've asked for in 2025 that they've requested, but we have not fulfilled any of them because of state law. And honestly, the county policy is even more strict than state law, so it prohibits me from turning those over unless that federal judicial warrant exists.
All right. Do you see that? Do you hear that? Okay. So even if they come over and even if they commit crimes, first off, and let's be honest, the fact that they're not here legally is a crime in and of itself. So when they say criminals, they're really talking about violent criminals. That's kind of what they're really talking about. In particular, violent criminals. The fact that they're not here legally. But the thing is that the Democratic Party has set things up in a way where even if they do have a retainer, even if they do have a legal request for you to turn over, for there to be some transition, for the state to work with ICE agents and to transition them into ICE agents, there are laws put in place, sanctuary city laws put in place to where they can't even work to deport people who are committing crimes in the city. All right. The illegal immigrants have benefited the Democratic Party, benefit the Democratic Party in many ways. A lot of them are trying to get them voter registration because they want to boost the numbers so they can supplement the black vote. A lot of them, they work illegally for big corporations that fund and donate to the Democratic Party. And there's a couple of other reasons why the Democratic Party loves to keep the illegals here. Let me show you guys this. A lot of people need to understand. What we need to talk about is why many of them keep them over here. There's a lot of reasons, and with the hearings that we're hearing in Congress, they'll admit to it. Listen to this. We got receipts tonight.
Mr. Santos, are illegal immigrants counted in the U.S. Census?
Yes.
Why?
They have a usual residence in the United States.
Okay. Is that data collected by the census used to decide how many congressional districts and electoral college votes a state gets?
It is.
And it's true that states with high numbers of illegal immigrants, like California or New York, are typically Democrat states?
Correct, as is Texas.
Yes, sir.
Do you see that? Okay, hold on. Let's break that down. Yeah. the illegal immigrants are counted in the census. Okay. So that benefits them as far as the states and the electoral college and all of this and the representation, because a lot of the representation as far as the seats and how many people get counted by each state, that a lot of that goes by population and by the census. You have a whole lot of people. This is why bigger states or states with big populations have big numbers and need to be represented a lot. So they'll count a lot of illegal immigrants on the census, and all of them are on the Democratic city. A lot of them in LA, okay? A lot of them in New York, a lot of them in Chicago. Come on. Okay, so now we're starting to see why they're flooding the zone with them. All right, because this way they can kind of have a monopoly because they have the biggest states with the biggest population. One thing about kind of liberal and conservative, or whatever the case is, let me get this off the screen and explain this for a second. For the most part, America is mostly kind of on the spectrum leaning towards conservative, mostly kind of conservative, traditional, or whatever. Most of America is, for lack of a better term, we'll say red. Most of America is like that. The thing that balances it out is that major cities carry like a large population of very liberal people. Okay, so for instance, the state of Illinois is a red state. It is the city of Chicago that really makes the state blue, because so many people, about 1/3 of the whole population of the state, live in, actually, I think is a little over 1/3 live in Chicago or the Chicagoland area. All right. And they're pretty much all liberal. Everybody there is all liberal, all vote Democrat, religiously and faithfully. All right. So with that being said, that completely overshadows if a third of the people live in one single city and they're all Democrat, and a lot of them, they're active voters and things like that. And then around the city, that overshadows the rest of the state. So now the whole state is a blue state based off of just Chicago. And we've seen this with other places as well, too, that the surrounding area or even majority of the area outside of the major city will be red, but the major city is what makes the whole state blue. So that's one of the reasons why you can have a Democratic mayor and a Democratic governor and a Democratic, representatives, Democratic Senate and everything. And they've been using this so they can have so they can boost their numbers up in the federal government. So this is why a lot of them, this is another reason, is multiple reasons. This is another reason why a lot of them want to keep these illegals in these Democratic cities, in these big Democratic cities, because right now they're losing more than they're gaining as far as registered voters for their party. So they need all the stuff they can get. Okay. They need to arm themselves with everything that they can get. All right. Before it's all over for them. Let's take it back a little bit.
Residents in the United States.
Okay. Is that data collected by the census used to decide how many congressional districts and electoral college votes a state gets?
It is.
And it's true that states with high numbers of illegal immigrants, like California or New York, are typically Democrat states?
Correct, as is Texas.
Yes, sir. By counting illegal immigrants, these states receive more electoral votes and seats in Congress. Doesn't that mean that Democrats benefit from illegal immigration? You're a scientist.
I am a scientist. That's the way the math works out.
Yeah.
All right, that's the way it works out.
Yes, sir. Okay. Do you believe illegal immigrants should be counted in the census?
I believe we should count according to the Constitution, yes.
Okay. I don't know if it was the videos thing, right? They should be counted as far as the Constitution. Well, if that's the case, let's follow all the rules then. And this is one of the things, as the Democrats and Republicans do this. We're not biased on either side. The Democrats and Republicans do this. They like to use the Constitution when it's beneficial to them, when it fits their narrative, and then they kind of bypass the laws when it doesn't fit their narrative. These are the people who brag and brag and brag and brag about the Constitution and about fighting against things that are illegal and violating people's rights and laws and following the law and following the law and the law. But when it comes to the border, they don't want to follow the law. When it comes to immigration, they don't want to follow the law. So these people are hypocrites, a lot of them. These people are huge hypocrites as far as the Constitution and the law and all of that stuff. No, all right. They're absolutely not. The deportations are going around the whole country, even in Chicago, but we can talk about all over the country. We can talk about the city of Boston. We can talk about that. I get some information. There's crackdowns from ICE going on there.
The so-called Patriot 2.0 is targeting the, quote, worst of the worst in the state and across the region. Here's ABC senior White House correspondent Selena Wang.
Tonight, President Trump escalating his threats to surge federal law enforcement in American cities. Immigration raids now underway in Boston. The Department of Homeland Security telling ABC News that ICE launched Patriot 2.0 to target the worst of the worst criminal illegal aliens living in the state of Massachusetts. The president drawing outrage from leaders in Chicago after threatening the city with the prospect of war, a reference to his executive order rebranding the Department of Defense the Department of War.
Hey, hey, ho, ho, Donald Trump has got to go.
Chicago now bracing for the arrival of federal troops any day now.
Absolutely. You can expect action in most sanctuary cities across the country.
And today, Trump defending his message.
We're not going to war. We're going to clean up our cities.
As scores of Americans marched through D.C. streets over the weekend, protesting the deployment of 2,000 National Guard troops at the nation's capital. I pressed the president on why he's targeting Democratic strongholds like Boston and Chicago.
Mr. President, why target Chicago and Boston when there are cities and red states with higher crime rates?
Yeah. Really higher than Chicago?
There are, like Memphis and St. Louis.
Excuse me. Do you know how many people were killed in Chicago last weekend? 8. You think there's worse than that? I don't think so.
But FBI.
Okay. And this is something that we're going to have to let's tell the truth on this. Let's tell the truth on this. 8 people being killed in Chicago is a big deal. Shot and killed. That's a big deal. That's terrible. And my heart goes out to them. Gotta be real. And I need everybody in the chat room. If you from Chicago, let's be honest. 8 in the summertime, right after like around a holiday. That's not no like disaster where you need to declare war on. I mean, I'm not trying to say that their life is insignificant. I'm not trying to downplay that. 8 is too many. 1 is too many. But if somebody gets shot, I wouldn't send a helicopter and a tank personally. I think that that's a little bit of an overkill. You know, they keep trying to, Chicago's crime is out of control. It's out of control. It's out of control. How many people died? Like 4. Don't you think that's too much? I guess it is. You know what I'm saying? So this is something that the Republicans do, which is why it's good we're not Republicans. But this is something that the Republicans do a lot, in particular with Chicago. They always make it seem like Chicago is like the Middle East, where there's just bullets just flying everywhere and rocket launchers and grenades and buildings just blowing up and all of this stuff. That's no. Come on now. And I'm not trying to say that there's not a crime problem. There is a crime problem. I'm not trying to say that crime doesn't need to be taken serious in Chicago. It does. But let's be honest, this is not no war zone, especially right now. To be very honest, the truth of the matter is that crime, violent crime, is actually going down. Is it going down the way Brandon Johnson's bragging about? I'm suspicious of that. I doubt that. But it is going down from my perception. And I'm not caping for Brandon Johnson. Y'all know that. But from what I've seen, it is going down. We are having less major incidents and stuff like that. Okay, 8. He said 8. I mean, don't you think we should send the aircraft? Like, okay, all right, okay, all right. That's all right.
Statistics show otherwise. The red state cities of Memphis and St. Louis have significantly higher murder rates than both Boston and Chicago.
And Lizzie, this comes as South Korea has reached a deal with the U.S. to release more than 300 workers who were detained during an immigration raid at a Hyundai plant in Georgia last week. That operation rattled a close U.S. ally, but plans are now underway to fly them home on a chartered flight. Lindsay?
Selena Wang from the White House for
They get flown home on a chartered flight. Who paying for that? Damn, that's a nice way to treat people who broke into the country. Okay. Damn, I'm a citizen and I don't get no first class automatically. I gotta pay for first class. Okay, damn. Okay. Let's talk about that for a little bit. Let's talk about that as far as Koreans, because when we talk about illegals, we got to talk about the fact that all of these illegals are not Hispanic necessarily. A lot of them are actually of Asian origin and Asian descent. Okay, so there's a report going around that there's been hundreds of arrests, around 500 arrests at I think this is a factory, a Hyundai factory. And it's been about 500, mostly Koreans. There was like 30 something Hispanics, but most of these illegals are Korean, actually. Hold on.
He's coming this way, please.
There's quite a few of them. Okay, look. Oh boy. Yeah, we got to look out for all of them. All of them over here, okay? Not just any now. They get a charter flight back home. I don't think they should get a charter flight back home. Personally, who's paying for all of that? Let's be honest. Now, there's some people like, oh my God, it's so sad. What are we gonna do? You know, no. There's people, because let's be honest. These people, if they're working and they're building vehicles or they're manufacturing or fixing or whatever the case may be, they're doing that here illegally. That's about I want you to think about it like this. That's a good 500 jobs that actual citizens, foundational Black Americans, can be doing. That's about 500 jobs. And I want y'all to think about it like this. That's one factory. One factory, one raid, one crackdown, one single one. Okay. 500 jobs that we could be doing, that we could be benefiting from with benefits and all that good stuff. That 500 of them, that's going to them. All right. Think about that. Think about that. All right. Now, I want you to also think about this. These Democrats will tell you the illegals who are coming over here, they're doing jobs that nobody else wants to do, right? Because they keep trying to frame the job as if you're in the field and you're picking strawberries in the field and you're picking oranges and apples and you're planting corn or whatever the case is, and you're just doing this back-breaking labor. These people are working in a factory. These people are not doing anything that the average American doesn't do, or not the average, but the American doesn't do. American citizens don't do. See, these are a lot of the jobs. Don't have them. We cannot allow them to keep restraining the conversation to farm work. Let's be honest. And even a lot of that farm work is work that for a fair pay, a fair wage, with decent benefits that people would be willing to do. But these people who operate and run the farms, they exploit people just the same way they exploit people at the factory. They're doing jobs all over the place. Now, I would love to hear a Democratic representative, Jasmine Crockett, whomever, come up here and tell you that Americans don't want to work at a car factory. I would love for her to tell you that Black Americans don't want to work at a car factory, the same way they've been trying to say we need illegals because Black Americans don't want to work at a farm anymore. Since we're just done with farming now, I would love for her to make that thing. These are exactly what they're talking about when it comes to Black jobs, jobs that we could be doing, jobs that we could be benefiting, jobs that we were really the forefront of. We were the forefront of these jobs and manufacturing and shipping and all of these essential things. All right. They outsourced a lot of the factories and stuff like that overseas. They never should have done that. Okay, but that was by both the Democrats and Republicans. They both saw a money grab, so they both did that. And the factory jobs that we do have, the manufacturing jobs that we do have, they allow illegal immigrants to come over here, illegal, keyword, to come over here and do the jobs and have the American citizens be gaslight us into say, well, they're doing it because y'all don't want to do it. But the thing is, you don't want to pick us. That's the thing. You don't want to pick us because you know we're not going to be exploited. Okay? There's things that you will be able to get away with an illegal, whether that's a Hispanic illegal or Asian illegal, if it's a Mexican illegal or if it's a Korean illegal. There's things that you get away with that you wouldn't be able to get away with if you were dealing with us. So you're picking them over us because it's advantageous for you, not because they do a better job, not because they're doing things that we're unwilling to do, not because of any of that. All right. So it's exploitation, and I'm glad that they're starting to crack down. This is where they need to be cracking down. Crack down on these jobs, crack down on the people. That's going to free up a lot of stuff. The factory, if the Hyundai, if y'all want to stay open, y'all need to be having a big hiring spree. That's what y'all need to be doing. That's exactly what y'all need to be doing. Okay, y'all really need to be arresting the people who hiring them, but they ain't gonna do that. At least not no major arrests like that. I also want to talk about something else. Now, Donald Trump is going around and he's talking about he's gonna send the National Guard because Chicago's crime is just kind of out of control, and there's this crime things that just gone out of control and stuff like that. Oh, okay, listen. Chicago's crime is really not out. Real talk. It's really not. It's not out of control like that. So what I'm starting to see is a lot of things that just kind of don't make sense. A lot of staged things based off of first impression, stuff look kind of made up. There's this video going around from Chicago of this smash and grab of this Rolex store in Chicago. Hold on, I'm waiting for the video to pull up. Look at this. Okay.
What's going on, man? That's so wild. I was wondering what that was. That's what we call smash and grab. Right there. What's going on, man? That's so wild. I was wondering what that was.
Okay, yeah. So this right here, as you can see on your screen, you can see that right there on your screen. These are six black men who decided to, in the middle of the day, take some axes and hammers and break the outside window. Because there's, first off, too, if you've been around, anybody from Chicago can tell you, anybody who's been downtown can tell you, these windows are super, super thick. These are not the windows that you have at your house. These are not just regular glass windows where you can throw a rock and break the rock. No, you gotta pick something, you gotta hit it and 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 hit it. Okay. Cameras all over the place. Downtown, there's police all over the place. All right. And then there's multiple windows, and I'm going to show you another image from another thing. There's multiple images, okay? Now, allegedly, they've caught them, the people, allegedly, they've caught them, all right? So they'll have them go out and they're grabbing Rolexes, and now you're seeing a whole lot of the Democratic, the Republicans be all like, "Oh my God, do you see the crime? The crime is out of control. What they're breaking in broad daylight, just the thuggery of the nigger. I can't believe them." Like, yeah, okay. Yeah, you will have some folks doing something goofy. Let's be real. Yeah, they out here doing something. I want you to see, first off, do you see that there's multiple windows? And they've been banging on this for a while, so they can reach from the outside in broad daylight, stick their hand in and grab a few watches. Okay. Okay. And look. Do you see the pedestrians just walking by? Do you see the pedestrians just walking by? They just walking straight past. I'll tell you something. Let me tell you something about Chicago. Let me tell you something about Chicago. When we got somewhere to be, we got somewhere to be. He walking past like, oh man, he's breaking into the Rolex store. That's crazy. When we got somewhere to be, we got somewhere to be. Okay. And we ain't trying to get distracted or not. We need to be where we need to be. Okay. Chicago don't play. When we gotta go, we gotta go. Okay. All of that, we'll look we'll look back like, damn, that's kind of wild. But don't want to be when we got somewhere to be. I'm telling you, we got somewhere to be, and we don't like stopping. We'll look, okay, but we gotta go. Chicago, for we be on a mission. But this is crazy. Now these are the people that they allegedly caught. They allegedly caught these six people. We don't know the backgrounds of these people. First off, just got to say that we don't know the background of these people. We don't really know if these were the people who really did it. They could easily just round up a group of black folk and then be all like, well, you fit the description. Okay. Just can't help but notice. They just can't help but notice that 4 of the 6 got locks. Just can't help but notice. And that's one of their biggest descriptions. You know what I'm saying? Because they like to criminalize locks and make it seem like that's like a calling card of being a criminal. So just can't help but notice that. I'm just saying, you know. But okay, so they all picked them up and whatnot. And as you can see, this is the another image from the Rolex store where they both was, I guess, breaking windows or whatever. Apparently, this is the middle of the day. Rolex must have been closed. Apparently, there was no security or cops or anything like that around. So I just want to let y'all. Okay, let me just say, y'all, there's gonna be some propaganda. There's gonna be some propaganda. Okay, I don't know when this happened. The video surfaced a few days ago, but there's gonna be some propaganda. And here's the thing: it could be two things. Like, we don't know if all of these people were plants, because sometimes they'll do that. They'll have somebody come out and do something, and then they'll just pick somebody up who fits the description. Or it can be, and they used to do this with the Black Panther Party, it can be of somebody who's all like, hey, y'all, I got a tip that there's not going to be a security guard Saturday morning at the Rolex. The Rolex security guard ain't going to be there or whatever. So we can go in, we can break through the window. We don't even got to go inside. We can break through the window, grab a few Rolexes, put them in a bag and run off. You will have people who plan and initiate crimes so they can push a narrative for the media, so that way the government can have justification to do what they want to do. This used to happen all of the time with the Black Panther Party, all right, where you'll have agents from the FBI. Agents will be put in as Black Panther members, and they'll start initiating a bunch of crimes and gassing up all of the Black Panthers. Like, man, let's go bomb the museum, guys. I got this dynamite right here. Let's go throw the bombs all over the place and blow it up and kill everybody. And then the second they got caught, everybody gets arrested. Okay, so it's a lot of that stuff. Okay, so when I see stuff like this, when I look back and I see stuff like this, and I'm all like, that's just not. Yeah, Chicago. Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. We do got some folk who do just brainless crimes. Just the crimes just don't make that much sense. But when I see stuff that's just so obvious, especially around right now, when I see stuff that's like, okay, this could be so weaponized to use against the fact that the crime has gone down and to put a target on the black community's back. So I'm all like, this stuff just don't look like that's just not how folks move. Criminals don't move like that. You breaking something in the middle of the day. You still got pedestrians walking through. You ain't okay. All right. Okay. And allegedly they got caught 11 minutes later, allegedly. So we got to look out for that. We got to look out for that. Okay. You can't really trust it because a lot of this feeds into the propaganda. So we got to be careful. Okay. And we can expect staged things. There was another situation. I don't want to show the video, but there was another situation where this alleged black person, okay, we're not really sure. We don't know the details yet. This was an alleged black individual who randomly stabbed this white Ukrainian woman on the bus. All right. And they're going around, oh my God, the blacks are out of control, and oh my God, they need to shut things down, and the crime and what's wrong with them. So I don't really like that. I'm not really feeling that. Don't like it. Okay. So we got it. Yeah, it was on the train. I said a bus. It was on a train. If I said a bus, it was on a train. So we got to be very careful when it comes to that stuff, because they will have people who will crash out just so they can push their propaganda. Okay. Just so they can do that. So let's be careful with that. Now, a lot of people are saying that, they don't really know what's, a lot of people saying that they cool with ICE coming through. I mean, they fine with it. They okay with it. A lot of people saying that. Let's be very honest with you. Now, Brandon Johnson has been pushing back against it. He's been having these protests and stuff like that. Let me show you Brandon Johnson. Okay. And Brandon Johnson's been pushing back against it. Lord have mercy. Hold on. Where is it? Hold on. Damn. Where's that one video? Okay, let me show it now. I don't have it pulled up. So I got to pull it up on the computer. I got to pull it up on YouTube. Let me show you Brandon Johnson. He's been out there. Apparently there's a labor movement. It's a labor movement going on, and Brandon Johnson has been pulling this up and I guess saying stuff about it. Like, yeah, the city of Chicago must fight back against authoritarianism. The city of Chicago must fight back against dictatorship, and the city of Chicago must fight back against Let me show you. This is what he had to say. Okay, hold on. Here it is. It needs to stop loading too slowly. As hopefully y'all hitting that like button though. As the video is loading up, hopefully that you guys are hitting that like button. I would greatly appreciate that from the family. All right. Come on now. All right. There we go. There we go. See, this is one of the things, man.
Let's go. Oh, let me hear you, Chicago. Let me get you a little bit more noise. Noisy out there. Yes. No federal.
Okay.
Troops in the city of Chicago. No militarized force in the city of Chicago.
Okay, hold on. Well, yeah, Lord have mercy. It's always something, ain't it? Gotta find out some technical stuff. I'm actually gonna pull this up from another source then. If the YouTube thing don't want to play, then we don't need to have that up there no more. It's all right. When there's a will, there's a way. You gotta believe in that. Okay, you gotta believe in that. When there's a will, there's a way. So where did I have this before? I did save it somewhere. Okay, here it is. Here we go. Here we go. There we go. All right, here we go. There we go. You better not do that this time.
Are you prepared to defend this land that was built by slaves, a land that was built by indigenous people, a land that is built by workers? Are you prepared to defend this land?
Okay, well, we're gonna have to go with that. Okay, he says, "Are you prepared to defend this land? A land that was built by workers, a land that was built by slaves." Very interesting, and we're gonna get to that. A land that was built by slaves. Well, the whole country was built by slaves. A land that was built by indigenous people, a land that was built by workers, and black and brown need to stand together and fight against authoritarianism. That's what he said. Okay, so we already know that the crackdowns are going on and stuff like that's going through. Now, built by slaves. Like the fact that he brought that up. Because this leads me to my biggest point today. Brandon Johnson actually did an interview with Joy Reid. The interview with Joy Reid was actually very interesting about Chicago, and we got to play a lot. It's a lot. Okay, I want y'all to sit down for this. It's a lot. All right.
Such an incredible job working with the police, and we haven't had to bring in the regular military, which we're willing to do. We have to, and after we do this, we'll go to another location and we'll make it safe also. We're going to make our country very safe. We're going to make our cities very, very safe. Chicago's a mess. You have an incompetent mayor, grossly incompetent, and we'll straighten that one out probably next. That'll be our next one after this. And it won't even be tough. And the people in Chicago, Mr. Vice President, are screaming for us to come. They're wearing red hats, just like this one. But they're wearing red hats. African-American ladies, beautiful ladies, are saying, please, President Trump, come to Chicago. Please. I did great with the black vote, as you know, and they want something to happen. So I think Chicago will be our next, and then we'll help with New York.
And so, for me, I stand on the shoulders of two incredible human beings who understood the relationship between community and local law enforcement, and that when it comes to immigration enforcement, we should never be in coordination. Now, when there's criminal activity and other ways in which we can cooperate with the federal government, of course we do that. But I'm lifting that up to say is that we have maintained that protective status. We have a strong community of support, whereas I've been very clear that it's important that all of us stand firm to protect our undocumented families and our immigrant community. We have an expansive Know Your Rights campaign. I believe when the so-called czar came to Chicago, his biggest critique was they're too educated, right? And so this is just a display of how our sister agencies, our city departments, along with our police department, where we all work together to uphold the status of a welcoming city. The Trump administration sued the city of Chicago for our status. And just last week, a district court rebuked and struck down that suit. Another way in which we are showing up for the undocumented community. And so whether it's taking it to the streets, as she says, protests, educating people, taking it to the courts, and even in policy, reaffirming our status as a welcoming city space, it's really a remarkable testament to the beauty and the joy, quite frankly, that exists in Chicago. Now, it doesn't mean that there aren't levels of anxiety and fear, but we're not going to allow those fears to permeate through our society and prevent us from living out, what I call really the soul of who we are.
And another one of your fellow mayors, Ross Baraka of Newark, New Jersey, was arrested attempting to inspect.
Okay. All of that, our families are illegal families and all of this stuff. No, we are not family. We are not kin to any of these illegals. We're not kin to that. We've been saying for the longest time, and he keeps trying to make it seem as if he represents Chicago. He keeps trying to make it seem as if Chicagoans support what he got going on, when there's been multiple protests over the last few years of us saying that we want them out. Okay. In particular in Chicago, Chicago's been some of the loudest voices. And I'm not just talking about me and Miss Jackson going to City Hall. I'm not just talking about that. I'm talking about in general. Okay. Protesting and making the voice be heard, our voice be heard, that we don't want that. Okay, let me show you. It's been
Council took the first step
last couple of years, to be honest,
to getting a Chicago 2025 budget approved.
Committee votes today were very close, and now it will be up to the full city council on Friday to vote yes or no. Political reporter Marianne Ahern is here on where it all stands. Marianne?
It has been quite a process. This is the third draft of a budget that includes a property tax hike and more fees for everyday costs, including plastic bags.
You want to squeeze the resident of more money as if Chicago is already not an expensive city to live in.
Oh, damn. Who is that? Oh, that's me. That's me on the news. All right.
Chicagoans who attended today's budget hearing at City Hall are not the only ones frustrated. The votes needed to push the budget through were very close. By a 14-12 vote, the Finance Committee gave the mayor's $234 million tax increase approval. It includes a $68.5 million property tax hike. That means someone who owns a $450,000 home will pay $136 more. Alderman Conway and Wagasback are no votes.
We can't balance this budget just by asking working families and taxpayers to pay more while we in the city are not doing anything to make city government more efficient.
There are a lot of...
Yep. Okay. So with that being said, people have been arguing and fighting in City Hall. It's been crazy going on. It's been craziness. So all of this, Chicago is standing up and Chicago is doing what we've always done and stuff like that. And, we're together with this. No, absolutely not. That's not how it's been at all. It's not been that way at all.
Are fleeing their country and seeking sanctuary in a city that was founded by a Haitian immigrant, that was established as a sanctuary city from our first Black mayor, Harold Washington.
I'm not sure why the videos are acting choppy today. That's kind of interesting. It's kind of weird, but you've had a lot of people who've been fighting against and protesting, and Chicago residents have been pissed off about the whole situation. I'm letting you know, just giving you a reminder that nobody's been feeling this. Ain't nobody's been feeling this. Okay? Look at this. Why we want to talk about crime and stuff like this. Listen to this.
Staying at Chicago shelters has fallen to its lowest point in months. According to data shared by the city, the number...
Hold on, that's not the right one. Hold on. There's another one over here where they're talking about crime. Hold on. I pulled the wrong video up, y'all. I put the wrong one up. Okay. Hold on. This is the one. Okay. My computer is acting a little slow right now, but it's all right. It's all right. As long as you guys are with me and as long as y'all hitting that like button. I think if y'all hit the like button, the computer will work a little faster. I think if everybody collectively hits the like button, the computer will work a lot faster. That's what I think. Okay. Now, this is something that's going on. It didn't happen necessarily in Chicago, but this is something that happened in Colorado. This is something that was going on in Colorado where these illegal gangs, these illegal Hispanic gangs have been coming over and taking over the city, taking over the apartment complexes and stuff like that all over. And this happens not just in Colorado, but this has been going on. You've had Hispanic gangs all through different cities. In Chicago, there's been prostitution, drugs, all of that stuff in Chicago. So when Brandon Johnson talked about defending Chicago and all of that, no, he's not talking about that. Okay, not talking about that at all. Letting that be known. Wish I could play the other ones. It's acting a little janky. I think it's working faster now. You guys must be hitting the like button. You guys must be hitting the like button. Okay, see, that's why it's working, because everybody's hitting that like button. All right. So getting back to
private prison that was operating, in his view, illegally per a lawsuit that he filed in the city of Newark. The federal government is looking to stand up these federal detention facilities and camps all over the country, and they seem particularly interested in doing them in blue cities, in Miami, or blue counties and blue cities, Miami-Dade County, Newark, New Jersey. Is that something that you would try to stop happening in Chicago? Would you allow a private prison to operate here to house migrants?
Well, definitely, we're not going to stand for a private entity or private prison to establish itself in Chicago. We're going to use every single force that we have to prevent something like that from happening. You know, what's so alarming about all of this is that with this last piece of legislation that the president signed, you know, the greatest concentration of wealth being shifted into the hands of the ultra rich, but also the budget that ICE now has, where that budget is larger than governments and military forces around the world. In fact, the only two government armed forces that have a larger budget, America and China. And so these are real dangerous threats, and not to get too far off into the historic dynamic around this, but as a former social studies teacher, it's clear that, you know, this president is mimicking the behavior of Andrew Jackson. I mean, we're talking about the Indian Removal Act, the Trail of Tears, to the victor goes the spoils, right? I mean, he's literally a full manifestation of what was probably one of the most consequential moments in our nation's history, right? And so for me, just understanding that context is why it's so important that we bring people together, right? Because there's been a level of divide, you know, within our communities, within the brown community, within the black community. And I always call out the contradiction, right? I mean, the city of Chicago.
Now, it's kind of interesting. There's been a level of divide between the brown community and the black community. Do you guys notice that, first off, we don't even say the black and brown term anymore, but do you guys notice that Brandon Johnson in particular, he says brown before he says black in a lot of these cases? He if you notice that, Brandon Johnson will say brown and black in the brown community and the black community, which lets you know his priority. He will put brown. If you notice that, he will often say brown. If he says black and brown, he will say brown and black. He will say it like that. Okay. Very interesting. Letting you know what community he puts before us. I mean, we already know that, but he's saying it.
We were a safe haven, a refuge for 30,000 Ukrainians, and no one said a mumbling word. 30,000 Ukrainians are right here in the city of Chicago, fully supported by the federal government. And I'm not saying that that wasn't the right thing to do. I'm saying that there's an intentionality around this authoritarian rule to divide and conquer people of color. And that's why
People of color, Lord. Gonna make me throw up.
I'm always leaning into the history of this city, a Black Haitian immigrant, a Potawatomi woman, the first small business as a trade post at the bank of the river, understanding the global connection of immigrants around the world or descendants of slaves who have found refuge in this city, that we have a right to protect that. And so the pushback is not just simply a response to authoritarianism or tyranny. It's really a response to those who made it possible for me to be in this sacred room right here, where Dr. King came in this room and challenged power and then left out of this room and said he hadn't experienced anything like what he experienced in Chicago, even in the Deep South. But he also said that if we can figure it out in Chicago, we can do it anywhere in the world. And so my motivation is really to figure it out in Chicago, because we have to be a world example of how we show up for immigrants and fight for comprehensive immigration reform, and also fight to secure reparations for those of us who are descendants of slaves, that those things do not have to be in opposition to one another. And we are a living testament here in the city of Chicago as we build safe, affordable cities, investing in people of color, and we're doing it unapologetically.
Now, how do the National Democrats?
Now, notice when he's talking about this stuff, when he's referring to us, it's this like people of color, is brown and black. When he's referring to immigrants, it's only immigrants. He doesn't speak on immigrants as a collective of people of color. There are things specifically he's doing to look out particularly for these Hispanic immigrants. And then what we get is something that everybody gets. Okay. Some people are asking about his barber. I don't know what he thinks he's doing with his mohawk. I ask him, he thinks it's cool. So I don't know what he thinks. I don't know. And it just keeps looking worse, honestly. But okay. All right. But he mentioned reparations. Interesting. He mentioned reparations. Okay, let's listen to what he has to say. The reparations.
Democrats feel about you using the word reparations? That generally isn't very popular.
Yeah, well, I think that there is a brighter day that I believe it's in front of us. And I think it's incumbent upon, those who have been a part of the Democratic apparatus and establishment for some time, understand that there is a shift that's happening, not just ideologically, but there's a shift that's happening in our humanity. The evolution of our democracy has been brought to us by the most marginalized people on the planet. And we're seeing, global population shift all over the country. And we're seeing, the animus towards people of color. I appreciate the former president of the United States of America, speaking to the humanitarian crisis that's happening in Gaza. We need more voices from those who have benefited from the political democratic apparatus to speak to those demands, right?
Do y'all hear that? Do you hear that? Let's process this for a little bit. Let me get this off the screen because we'll go back to that. But let's process that, what he said right there, right then. Let's process that right there for a little bit. Okay. When it was about immigrants, notice it was crystal clear. Oh, we got to talk about the origin of the city of Chicago. We got to talk about protecting them. We got to talk about their rights. We got to talk about making sure that their families are safe. And we got to talk about them and them and them and them and them and people of color. But we got to really look out for them and make sure they're protected and make sure that they're strong. And I'm very unapologetic. He's crystal clear when he's talking about them, Then when she said reparations, he goes and is just this word salad. And then you bring it up. Yeah, a lot of people are, growing in their humanitarian beliefs and their rights. And a lot of people appreciate what the former president did as far as Gaza. What does that have to do with slavery reparations? And this is what the Democrats do often. Okay. That's why I made it bigger for you guys to understand, for you guys to like really, really like feel it and digest it. When it's about illegals, it's crystal clear. It's as clear as day what his priorities are, what he's going to do. It's as clear as day about what we need to stop doing. Now, when it comes to reparations, it's all this. Well, humanity. I'm just so thankful that we're heading in the right direction as far as what we see and what we feel and how we feel and how we see it. And shout out to Biden, because Biden did something in Gaza, which ain't got nothing to do with reparations, but still. Okay. Now, when you're talking about deportations, you
use every
pick up Gaza, but when you talk about our
right.
reparations,
And so this is just a display of how our sister agencies, our city departments, along with our police department, where we all work together to uphold the status of a welcoming city. The Trump administration sued the city of Chicago for our status. And just last week, a district court rebuked and struck down that suit. Another way in which we are showing up for the undocumented community. And so whether it's taking it to the streets, as she says, protests, educating people, taking it to the courts, and even in policy, reaffirming our status as a welcoming city space, it's really
and even in policy, pay attention to what he's saying. And even in policy, reaffirming, because it's already policy. But even in policy, he says, taking it to the streets, taking it to the courts, and even in policy, reaffirming that this is a sanctuary city. Pay very close attention. So when it comes to illegals, Brandon Johnson is willing to go all of the way. He's willing to sue. He's willing to fight. He's willing to protest. He's willing to sign any executive order that he sees that will benefit them. Okay, noted.
A remarkable testament to the beauty and the joy, quite frankly, that exists in Chicago. Now, it doesn't mean that there aren't levels of anxiety and fear, but we're not going to allow those fears to permeate through our society and prevent us from living out, what I call really the soul of who we are.
And another one of your fellow mayors, Ross Barata of Newark, New Jersey, was arrested attempting to inspect a private.
Okay. Now he's abundantly clear about that and about Donald Trump and his deportation. Now let's get to the reparations part of the conversation.
The spoils, right? I mean, he's literally. I'm saying that there's an intentionality around this authoritarian rule. Like what he experienced in Chicago, even in the Deep South. But he also said that if we can figure it out in Chicago, we can do it anywhere in the world. And so my motivation is really to figure it out in Chicago, because we have to be a world example of how we show up for immigrants and fight for comprehensive immigration reform, and also fight to secure reparations for those of us who are descendants of slaves, that those things do not have to be in opposition to one another. And we are a living testament here in the city of Chicago as we build safe, affordable cities, investing in people of color, and we're doing it unapologetically.
Now, how do the National Democrats feel about you using the word reparations? That generally isn't very popular.
Yeah, well, I think that there is a brighter day that I believe it's in front of us. And I think it's incumbent upon, those who have been a part of the Democratic apparatus and establishment for.
Now, that's interesting. Joy Reid. We're going to have to circle that back. Hold on. We're not going to let you slide, Miss Joyless Reid. Listen to this.
Deep South. But he also said that if we can figure it out in Chicago, we can do it anywhere in the world. And so my motivation is really to figure it out in Chicago, because we have to be a world example of how we show up for immigrants and fight for comprehensive immigration reform, and also fight to secure reparations for those of us who are descendants of slaves, that those things do not have to be in opposition to one another. And we are a living testament here in the city of Chicago as we build safe, affordable cities, investing in people of color, and we're doing it unapologetically.
Now, how do the National Democrats feel about you using the word reparations? That generally isn't very popular.
How do the National Democrats feel about you using the word reparations? That's generally not popular for them. Okay. So, I mean, this is true. That is true. What she's saying is not incorrect. But Joy Reid has not always been on that page. Joy Reid was the one who was gaslighting us about reparations. Joy Reid was one of the ones saying that reparations and HR 40. This was Joy Reid. Like, come on, we got the receipts here. We're not gonna sit up there and play it. Now, when Joy Reid, when you was on MSNBC, you was making it seem like the Democrats were spearheading reparations. I remember that. Oh, now that they kicked you out and you by yourself, now you can admit that the Democrats don't really care about reparations. Oh, okay. I get it, guys. I get it. And I want you guys to understand with the midterms coming up that a lot of them are going to be doing this. A lot of the people who were telling us that we were Black MAGA, that we were Hotep, that we were divisive, that we were trolls, that we were Russian bots, that we were all of these negative things, you're going to start hearing them slowly but surely start speaking more like us. All of these criticisms and stuff like this for the Democratic Party, you didn't have when you was on MSNBC. This was the page you were on when you were on MSNBC.
Back in the sort of early 2000s. And then Ta-Nehisi Coates made it an issue again with his piece 5 years ago. What made it come back now?
Well, I think that obviously with the introduction of H.R. 40 again by Congresswoman Lee, which has been out there, I believe, since 1987, the discussion has not gone away. There are organizations still active about reparations. They don't get a lot of attention in the mainstream media, like the commission you just mentioned, NARC, and also in COBRA, which is having, I think it's 30th annual convention in Detroit this summer. So the discussion is happening, but also, you know, there's some nefarious behavior going on. Just like we saw in 2016, where certain trolls, certain interests outside of the Black community that may even appear to be Black, like to take an issue, exploit it, and inject it into the presidential race. And
he's talking about us. Okay. He's talking about you. You watching. He's talking about me. He's talking about you. He's talking about us together. He's talking about us. All right. Just so you know who he's talking about us. We are the detractors who may be Black. We don't know. Who may be Black. That's that Russian bot stuff that Joy Reid was one of the biggest people pushing. She was one of the main people pushing that when we said things about tangibles and any criticism of the Democrats was some detractors who work for MAGA, and we were Russian robot MAGA white people pretending to be Black. We were all of those things, okay? We were all of it, okay?
And that's one of the things we're concerned about now. There are some people who are pushing the issue, but they have an ulterior motive. And if I could explain, whenever you see people online refer to reparations and they only hold Democratic candidates accountable, and then they say if Democratic candidates don't support reparations, then Black voters should stay home in 2020. That's how you know those people are genuine representatives of the reparations movement. And we saw that type of exploitation in 2016. We want to make sure that our community this go around is not subjected to sort of what is really a cyber COINTELPRO, where an issue in our community is infiltrated and exploited and used against us. And it's time now more than ever. The organizations like NCOBRA and the National African American Reparations Commission, Joy, speak out to say these are the real and genuine positions on reparations, not what some are saying where they say, well, we don't believe in the Pan-Africanism, which is blasphemous to the reparations community. This is 100 years since the first Pan-African Congress held by W.B. Du Bois, when they say that only those who are descendants of slaves in America matter. First of all, many in the...
No. And see, and Joy Reid was enabling all of this. Now she's on her own podcast. Now she want to change up the language. First of all, there's no we're only holding one party accountable. No. Okay. The thing is that it was the Democratic Party who's been asking and trying to get our vote in particular. It's y'all who say that we need to vote for the Democratic Party to save democracy. It's y'all who've been saying that. It's y'all who've been receiving the vote for all of these decades and not paying it back with any legislation and any resources. It's y'all who owe us. Okay. If we're to compare the two parties, you guys have been the ones we've supported, so you guys need to be the ones that support us. That's the thing. We are being very even-handed with our criticisms of both parties, okay? Then he goes on to say, well, if they don't get reparations, then don't vote. That's a Democratic shield. And a lot of these organizations have already been exposed as being undercover Democratic shields that leverage and levy all of the support for reparations, making it seem like these are grassroots activists and organizations towards the DNC. These are DNC operatives. He probably has a DNC organization and all that stuff. Well, if you don't get reparations, you should still vote for what? He can't tell you why you should vote. Okay. Why would the Democratic Party not give us reparations then? Then he talks about Pan-Africanism. Remember, he talks about Pan-Africanism. Going into Pan-Africanism, he was like, oh, people think that he doesn't say foundational Black Americans, but only foundational Black Americans matter. Only us matter. Well, when you're talking about reparations, who else matters? If we're going to talk about reparations in America, who else matters? No, this isn't about, well, you've been real cool, so I think you should get. No, this ain't about that, and we're not doing that. It don't, and I'm not saying none of them are cool. I'm not saying all of them are bad, but what I'm saying is, as far as reparations, the door is cut, the door's closed. Okay, the line is drawn. They don't get to cross it, no matter how cool they are. All right, and he's trying to make it seem as if this is something hateful or xenophobic. Now, I want to get Joy Reid because she eventually says something. Let me fast forward it a bit.
Reconciliation Commission in South Africa.
Yeah.
So when
to here in the United States, candidate leaders, African American.
This is first Pan-African.
Okay.
That's a giveaway when you see that type of rhetoric. Those other types of things, that's a red flag. And we ask people to support and hear and get behind the legitimate, long-standing reparations organizations.
Yeah, and then just to sort of flesh out what that means in terms of the legislation that you are the lead sponsor of, Congresswoman, what is in that legislation and what would it do?
Okay, well, Joy, now you telling Brandon Johnson that the Democrats don't want to support reparations because you're not getting your check from the DNC no more. But Joy, you was sitting up there, you was literally saying that you were quite literally making it seem like the Democratic Party were the people supporting reparations. Okay, remember you were still on MSNBC before your ass got fired, and you was trying to make it seem like Trump was giving folk reparations. You were gaslighting. Now, y'all remember this? Come on, don't take it.
Y'all listen to this.
Furthermore, I will direct the Department of Justice to pursue federal civil rights cases against schools that continue to engage in racial discrimination and schools that persist in explicit, unlawful discrimination under the guise of equity will not only have their endowments taxed, but through budget reconciliation, I will advance a measure to have them fined up to the entire amount of their endowment. A portion of the seized funds will then be used as restitution for victims of these illegal and unjust policies that hurt our country so badly. Colleges have gotten hundreds of billions of dollars for institutions.
Reparations for white people. Any comments on that, Trump blacks?
Yeah. Gaslighting and making it seem, oh, yeah, y'all didn't vote for Kamala, trying to rub in it. She rubbed it in. Oh, any comment on that, Trump blacks? And we're not Trump blacks, but now you want to criticize the Democratic Party. Let me get to some of the super chats. Tell it like it is says, that's not a mohawk. It's a must hawk. It do look, I'm saying, I don't know what's going on. I don't know. He don't want to let nobody know what his, but he cut his own hair and it's not that good. Just come on, man. Yori says, and sends a super chat. Yori says, when people on TV say the word rhetoric, they are anti-FBA. Yeah, pretty much. anytime you hear people trying to detract from where the movement actually is, it's because they're anti-FBA. Now let's get back to the reparations conversation with Joy Reid
I
and Brandon Johnson.
think that there is a brighter day that I believe it's in front of us, and I think it's incumbent upon those who have been a part of the Democratic apparatus and establishment for some time understand that there is a shift that's happening, not just ideologically, but there's a shift that's happening in our humanity. The evolution of our democracy has been brought to us by the most marginalized people on the planet. And we're seeing, global population shift all over the country. And we're seeing, the animus towards people of color. I appreciate the former president of the United States of America, speaking to the humanitarian crisis that's happening in Gaza. We need more voices from those who have benefited from the political democratic apparatus to speak to those demands, right? We can condemn terrorism and still call for peace. That those don't have to be in conflict with one another. And here in Chicago, we were the first major city to vote and call for the releasing of hostages and a ceasefire. We have given workers 10 paid days off. We've abolished the sub.
Now I want you to this is a long word salad babble. He's talking about Gaza. He's talking about a ceasefire. He's talking about paid days off. The question was about reparations. And how does he feel knowing that the Democratic Party isn't that big when it comes to supporting reparations? You're going all around the world and discussing everything. Let me ask you guys a question. It's very important that we ask these questions. Anytime they talk about Gaza, do they say, well, in order to talk about Gaza, we gotta make sure that we talk about reparations for foundational Black Americans? We gotta add that in. We can't talk about Gaza without talking about FBA. We can't do that. We gotta include them. No. When they talk about the working class, do they say, well, you know what? In order to talk about the working class, we got to talk about the people who've been most discriminated, and that's FBA. We got to talk about them. No, they don't. Anytime they're talking about other groups of people, other situations, other catastrophes, it's strictly, exclusively on them. He was just talking about protesting, going to court, signing legislation for a bunch of illegals. The second the word reparation comes up, he's all like, well, yeah, shout out to the president. And what we've done in Chicago is we asked for a ceasefire when it comes to Gaza. And a lot of the streets, we got a new cleanup crew, so you don't have as much trash on the streets. So that's a really good thing. People get to walk in and the city smells a lot better. We had some new sewer pipes. Like all of this stuff, he hasn't mentioned the word black one time. He's been talking for a couple minutes. The word reparations, the word slave. Now, it's very interesting when the word slaves come up that also benefits, because he only uses it. He doesn't use it independently. He only uses it when he couples that with immigration, because he's trying to make some correlation between slavery and illegal immigration. He desperately tries to do that. I don't see any other sitting politician who tries to make a correlation between slavery and immigration as often as Brandon Johnson does. He does it all of the time. All of the time. Now, when it's advantageous for him to use slavery, when it benefits them, when slavery can help make their cause more moralized, he'll use that. When it comes to reparations and immigrants can't benefit, now you want to talk about everything else besides what you just brought up. You brought up the word reparations. Now he's running from the word he just brought up.
Minimum wage, where tip workers who are overwhelmingly brown and black. We've established a reparations task force.
That again. Do you see that again? The tip workers who are brown and black. Notice that. Notice that is something that Brandon Johnson does. I'm trying to. Now you guys can't miss it. After this, you guys won't be able to miss it. Brandon Johnson does that often. He puts brown before black. That's not even how it's said most of the time. Not that we like it any of the time, but most of the time it said black and brown. But Brandon goes above and beyond to say brown and black, even though it doesn't flow off the tongue. It's difficult to remember saying it like that because it's so programmed to say black and brown. But he goes out of his way to say brown and black. Just notice that.
Money. We've already initiated another $4 million for wealth building, right? We're talking, here in Chicago, 1 in 4 18-year-olds or younger are living in poverty. But, we have 127,000 millionaires or something like that, 25 billionaires in our state. People should not be going hungry. And people should not be without medicine.
If you give us reparation, we can get all the food medicine we want.
And these are the deep traditions that come out of the political liberation of our people. And I think about Reverend Jackson, who was calling for single payer in '84, right? And these are the traditions, right, that are sacred, that I'm clinging to in this moment. That's what gives me hope, Joy, quite frankly, is that, whether the antiquated, sort of delayed response that's coming from some of the folks within the Democratic Party is clear that Brandon Scott gets it. It's clear that Randall Woodfin gets it. When I think about, Mayor Patterson Howard in Mount Vernon, she gets it. Karen Bass certainly gets it. I call Karen on a regular basis, like, sis, what we doing today?
Yeah.
Right? And we're leaning on one another because you're seeing black mayors around this country lead a very bold, dynamic, progressive form of governance. And this is what I believe.
Okay. He says it's clear that Karen Bass gets. No, it doesn't. None of the Democratic people he mentioned actually promote reparations and champion reparations. None of them. Not one. And he doesn't either. But even in this conversation, if you didn't know his stance on reparations and you were just listening and says, it's clear that these people get it. Get what? Because after Joy Reid asked you about reparations, he has not said the word reparations. He has not even said anything about reparations. He hasn't said the word slavery. He hasn't said none of that. At this point in time in the conversation, you don't know what he's talking about. He's all over the place. Talking about Gaza, talking about a ceasefire, talking about minimum wage, talking about tips on taxes and taxes on tips. Now he goes back to talking about now we need paid days off. He ain't brought up no reparations. Oh yeah, now we need youth employment. He's brought and Joy Reid ain't gonna catch his ass. Joy Reid's not gonna say anything. She's not gonna double down and say, but what about your stance on reparations though? Joy Reid's just sitting up there nodding her head, letting him babble, because we already know her stance about reparations anyway. She's nodding her head and letting him babble, not holding him accountable to anything, not holding him to the question, even though he brought reparations up. And he likes to bring up reparations so he can get so he can make it seem as if he's not ignoring the black population in Chicago. So he'll bring that up as an afterthought just to make it seem like he has us in his mind. But then when you ask him about reparations, he doesn't want to say anything. Okay. At this point in time, this dude is babbling. Okay. He says he talks to Joy Reid, not Joy Reid, Karen Bass on a regular basis. The way he's speaking, I think he talks to Kamala Harris on a regular basis. He sounds more like her, quite frankly, honestly. I'm talking about all over the place. We know this dude's whole life story at this point. Still don't know his stance on reparations for real. I mean, kind of do, because not saying something is saying something.
Believe that our country needs in this moment, and the Democratic Party will do itself a favor by paying attention to the cities that are doing the work, and that work is actually working.
Well, and people like Tom Homan, you mentioned the border czar, has said that he will arrest mayors like yourself, like Karen Bass. They've already arrested Ras Baraka. They had to let him go. Does that kind of threat resonate when you hear him say he's prepared to arrest a mayor like you for standing in the way of kidnapping people off of the street and putting them in detention camps or exporting them around the world?
I mentioned earlier.
Oh, damn, Joy. Okay. Way to stick on reparations. Wait to stick on do y'all see? Okay, do you guys see literally how quickly it was from immigrants, and he was very clear, very concise on his stance on immigrants and what needed to be done to help them and what needed to be done to advance them. Then the second reparations got brought up because Joy Reid knew she had to mention reparations because they know you got to make it seem like you're doing something for black people. You got to make it seem like black people aren't being ignored. So you got to at least mention reparations. So she mentions reparations. He doesn't specify reparations, his stance on reparations, his criticisms of other Democrats who don't support reparations at all. He got a lot of criticism for authoritarianism, for injustice, for going against the Constitution, for going against the Bible. He quotes the Bible all the time, going against that, calling himself a preacher's boy. Then when he talks about reparations all over the place, and Joy Reid nods her head and then goes right back to immigrants. It went immigrants, reparations, all over the place, immigrants, okay? Because she's an immigrant, and he's allegedly one too, all right? Then she's going to frame it as, yeah, ICE kidnapping people. Kidnapping people? ICE isn't holding anybody for ransom. You mean people who are not supposed to be in the city or the state or the country? Being deported? Yeah, that's legally, that doesn't fit the definition of kidnap, okay? By law. Okay, because if that's the case, anybody getting arrested is being kidnapped. If I commit a crime and the police arrest me, they're kidnapping me because I don't consent to go to jail. Kidnap has to the word, illegal, you illegally taking somebody, that's a very important factor in kidnapping. If they're legally not supposed to be in the country and you deport them, that's not kidnapping by definition.
That, just to your left, to my right, Dr. King sat right there. And I remember a story from Richard J. Daley's son, John Daley. He was a teenager when Dr. King came and visited. And that door right behind you, Dr. King came in this room. It was jam-packed. And when he walked in this room, everyone stood at attention. No one moved. He moved. He said, I don't think anybody was even breathing at that time. They just stood in awe. And I think I say that, and I think about that moment, and I think about people like Fannie Lou Hamer or Frederick Douglass or Ida B. Wells. I mean, these individuals had their lives threatened. What do I have to be afraid of? They've already tried to do the worst to us. We're clearly a threat to what President Biden said at the commencement speech at Howard University. He said the greatest threat to our democracy is white supremacy. And I'll take it one step further. About 100 years ago, Justice Brandeis said,
no, okay. The greatest threat is white supremacy. And Joe Biden has enabled white supremacy in every way possible. No, and here's the thing. The Democratic Party doesn't care about white supremacy because they participate in white supremacy. They're the other hand. They're the other side of white supremacy. They're actually sneakier, so they get away with more white supremacy, to be very honest with you. I'm not saying that their white supremacy is worse necessarily, but they get farther away with it. They accomplish more white supremacy because they disguise it. Okay, the Republicans will be bold, like, hey, we really don't like black people. They're thugs, they're criminals, they're born that way. They'll say that. The Democrats won't say that. They'll act like they're against it. The Republicans don't act like they're against white supremacy at all. At all. They'll actually act like white supremacists are the victims, all right? The Democrats act like they're against white supremacy and actually do nothing to be against white supremacy. If you are really against white supremacy, you would be championing reparations. That's what you would be. You would be out there spearheading reparations and signing every single executive order, having every single commission, every single vote, every single everything about reparations. He doesn't want to have that conversation, though. He doesn't want to bring that up, though. You talking about Biden being against white supremacy? We're not going to allow you guys to restrict the whole concept of white supremacy to Donald Trump or to MAGA. We're not going to excuse them of it, but we're not going to allow you to put all of it on them and excuse yourself. We're not going to let you do that. All right, which is what they try to do.
that we can either have a democracy or we can have wealth concentrated in the hands of the few. But he said we cannot have both. We have to choose. And so in this moment, I'm choosing our democracy. You either support the Constitution or you do not. And so those threats do not intimidate me. And I'm sure, our ancestors had moments of doubt, needed support. But I am so charged up by how younger voters are coming to the table. Joy, I won by roughly, 26,000 something votes. And there were 27,000 new voters who voted in April that did not vote in round one. They were all under the age of 34. And so we're seeing like this revived state, if you will, where young voters are coming together, working with, I guess I'm considered older now since I was born in the late 1900s.
You're an unk.
I'm definitely an unk, right?
I hate when they use our slang. You're an unk. I'm definitely an unk. That just sounds like white people speaking black. Hold on, y'all.
Guard has done such an incredible job working with the.
Corny. You're an unk. Oh yes, I'm indeed what they call it, an unk.
Younger voters are coming to the table. Joy, I won by roughly, 26,000 something votes. And there were 27,000 new voters who voted in April that did not vote in round one. They were all under the age of 34. And so we're seeing like this revived state, if you will, where young voters are coming together, working with, I guess I'm considered older now since I was born in the late 1900s.
You're an unk.
I'm definitely an unk, right?
National Guard has.
I'm an unk. That's what the youngins are calling it now. I'm an unk. I'm one of the cool ones, though. That's funny. It's hilarious. You're an unk. What are you? You're a cis? I call my cis and my. That's okay. All right. It's okay. Y'all are corny. You're an unk. Okay. Lord. All right. Boy, y'all don't even be around black people talking like that. You know why black people are not protesting against ICE in the black community? The reason for that is not just because of the fact that we all understand that the resources from the government that owes us money, is just handing them resources, willing to go above and beyond, damn near to the point where they're willing to risk their legal freedom. They're willing to risk being arrested on behalf of illegal immigration. Okay. And I showed you guys earlier that illegal immigrants protects the party. So they're not doing this. Let me play this again. Let me play this clip again. Okay. Because they're not doing this. This is one of the reasons, not the only one. They're not doing this out of no morality. Don't ever believe that. Okay, they'll make it seem like, well, I'm only doing this because this is just a moral thing to do. They're not doing it for that.
Mr. Santos, are illegal immigrants counted in the U.S. Census?
Yes.
Why?
They have a usual residence in the United States.
Okay. Is that data collected by the census used to decide how many congressional districts and electoral college votes a state gets?
It is.
And it's true that states with high numbers of illegal immigrants, like California or New York, are typically Democrat states?
Correct, as is Texas.
Yes, sir. By counting illegal immigrants, these states receive more electoral votes and seats in Congress. Doesn't that mean that Democrats benefit from illegal immigration? You're a scientist.
I am a scientist. That's the way the math works out.
Yes, sir. Okay.
All right. Okay. So it benefits them. So they're not doing this out of morality. They're doing this because this is advantageous for their party. Shout out to the people who are sending the cash apps from Mother Tree Moon. Brandon Johnson has to be an AI robot or MK Ultra. Sometimes I just wonder. I really do wonder. Like, it just, some of the stuff I kind of do wonder. I'm all like, I don't know what they be doing in them like Democratic dungeons and stuff like that. They be brainwashing. He could be a clone. I don't know. That haircut is just like I don't know what human gets a haircut like that. I don't know. So it could be. The haircut looks like an AI haircut. That's what it looked like to me. It looked like a clone haircut. I don't know. Okay. Shout out to the Cash apps. Shout out to Phone Check. And shout out to Andrea. I appreciate you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, family. I appreciate y'all. The reason why foundational Black Americans are not putting up with and not supporting, not going to back for a bunch of these illegal immigrants is because we see stories like this happen all of the time. Okay, if you guys haven't seen this, this is a crime from an illegal that the Democrats don't want to talk about. It says right here, Scarface illegal immigrant accused of murdering teen whose body was found dumped on side of the road after vanishing. All right, gonna look down a little bit. If it's ads, just please ignore that. Okay. I hate the kind of like the structure of this. Hold on, let me see if I can make this bigger. Okay. Lord, gonna have to do it like that. Okay, much better. It says a Scarface illegal migrant was charged Friday with murder of Maryland teenager whose body was dumped on side of a highway more than a week after she was reported missing. Hugo Hernandez Mendez, okay, 35 years old, was charged with first and second degree murder after a body found near a Washington, D.C. area highway was confirmed to be missing 19-year-old Dakara Thompson. Rest in peace to our sister Dakara Thompson, official said. All right. He is suspected of murdering the teen in his bedroom. Okay, a 35-year-old murdering a 19-year-old in his bedroom. Okay, after surveillance showed her getting in a black SUV that took her to his house in Bowie. The Prince George's County Police Department said. I'm not sure exactly how. Maybe he posed as an Uber driver or something like that. I'm not sure. I don't. Because reports isn't like she was going on a date. I hope it wasn't she was going on a date with this dude. Maybe she thought he was an Uber, because a lot of them do that. A lot of them pretend to be Uber drivers, and in particular, they do that to get black women in particular. So a lot of these Hispanics, these illegals, they'll pretend to be Uber drivers, and Uber will let them do it. The Uber will let them do it. You don't have to be a citizen to be an Uber driver, just so you know, or a Lyft driver. So just be careful. And they'll trail you to your house, or they'll get your address, or they'll take you back to their house, or whatever the case is. So this is what he looks like. All right. This is what he looks like. Now, you're not going to see the Democrats talking about this. You're not going to see Brandon Johnson or anybody talk about this while they're talking about victimization of black people and how black people need to fight against Donald Trump and to fight against the deportations and keep people like this in the city. This is he looks like somebody who's not supposed to be here. Okay? Just the look in his eyes, the cold-blooded look in his eyes. He looks exactly like he's not supposed to be here. Okay? Oh, okay. Oh, no. Oh, no. Let's not show that. I don't want to show that. No. Let's be honest. No. And hold on. I don't even know where that's going. I don't want YouTube to be like, you're promoting something you're not supposed to. Let's not do that. I don't know what happened. Okay, hold on. Come on, where's the okay, this is the picture of the young lady. Let me show you her picture real fast. It's such a tragic story. Okay, that happened to her. Young 19-year-old. 19 years old. Brandon Johnson, if I'm not mistaken, he has children around that age, if I'm not mistaken. I know he has children. I don't know if they're a little bit younger than this, but he has kids around that age. Okay. Most of these Democratic mayors and governors, they have children just around that age. Now, their children are going to be protected. This is why they can be so passionate about that, because Brandon Johnson, this is not going to happen to Brandon Johnson's children. This is not going to happen to Mayor Browser's children. This is not going to happen to any of their children. This is not going to happen to J.B. Pritzker's children. This isn't going to happen to them. Their children are going to be protected. Our children are not going to be protected. Our children are going to be the ones who have to be victimized and who have to suffer under this. This is what our children have to face. Our children have to deal with. It's absolutely horrendous. Absolutely terrible. Rest in peace to that sister. Thank you guys for that. Can we get some flowers in the chat room? Okay. Just to say that it's in my heart really does go out to the family when it comes to that. And especially knowing that probably, you know, the people that you look up to, the people that are telling you to vote and the protests and all of that, they're telling you that the bad guys are the people who are deporting people like that. Okay. Let's get to some of the super chats though. Shout out to Ma Nisi. She says my mohawk looks way better than his. I'm sure it does. I'm almost sure. I guarantee. I think yes, because you are a Foundation Black American, so you know how to get a mohawk done. He's allegedly not, so he don't know. He don't know how to get it. Is not faded right. Now I'm not saying all mohawks look bad. His does. His does. Okay, it's not faded right. Your Mia says Brandon Johnson's haircut looks like PlayStation 1. It does. It does. It looked like one of those haircuts where either a black person got a weird mohawk or he bald. And those PlayStation games where you can get to customize the player. So either the player is completely bald, got no hair, or they got a weird mohawk. Something weird like that. Okay. Crystal says no tangibles, no vote. I absolutely agree. I don't feel like I need to get off this couch anytime soon. Anytime soon. As far as the Democratic Party goes, the National Guard isn't out here in Chicago just yet. A lot of people allege that the National Guard was going to be out here this weekend. It wasn't. ICE is already out here and ICE is already deporting people. What I want us to understand is that there's probably going to be a lot of suspected crime and stuff like that. We're probably going to see a ramp up of a lot of alleged situations that take place that kind of gas and fuel the fire of illegals or of National Guard coming in to handle crime. Not particular like a crime organization, because they're not doing that. They're not going in to deal with a specific gang or a specific organization, a specific crime or specific like human trafficking or sex trafficking or gun trafficking, drug trafficking, anything in particular. They're just going in and saying, hey, crime is high, so send a National Guard and crime will go down. Nothing in particular is going on. So this is why, or nothing in particular is a reason or a cause or rationale for them to send the National Guard. So this is why when the National Guard gets out there, you're seeing a lot of arrests, and a lot of these arrests are because they're cherry picking things that black people are doing in particular to say, hey, look at how we made 50 arrests in the last 2 days. Well, yeah, the 50 arrests you made are because you pulled people over for their headlight being out and you arrested them because you said you smell weed in the car, you know, or somebody was jaywalking and then you pulled them over because or you stopped them for jaywalking and you said they were resisting arrest or they were obstructing justice or something like that, or they're out past curfew or whatever the case may be. So yeah, when you do a whole bunch of stuff like that and you just get a bunch of random misdemeanor arrests, you get to report to the news like, oh my God, look, we made 50 arrests in the last 48 hours. See, it was so much crime that was going on. The National Guard was a necessity. And they're saying that in DC, but you're not seeing the names of any of these drug lords. Now, the way they're making it seem, you would think that they got big drug lords, big busts, big homicides that they're solving. You're not seeing guns that are tied to unsolved murders or homicides or any drug lords or anything like that. Okay, you're not seeing gang lords being arrested. You're not seeing that because you know they would do it, because anytime they catch a black person doing a crime, what do? They put their names and their faces out there. They do. Every single time, without fail. They got their names and their faces. They make sure they'll have their names and their faces blasted all over the media. The left and the right media does the same thing, okay? So if the National Guard was assisting to this degree and they needed it that way, you would be seeing names and you would be seeing faces and names of all of these drug lords and these criminals and these traffickers and all of this stuff in DC, but you don't. You just see them allegedly saying that the arrests are high and the murders are low and all of this stuff, but you're not seeing no names. You're not seeing no real big charges. You're not seeing any of that. You're just seeing them say, hey, arrests are up, so we're doing great. So be looking out for that, because they're going to be looking for a reason, okay? And the reason they're and unfortunately, foundational Black Americans are going to be used as like the proxy to get the National Guard if they need the National Guard there. All right. So we just got to be careful. We really got to be careful with that. Let me get to another super chat. Tell it like it is, my brother. He says, one of these illegals is going to end up dispatching the wrong person. Yeah, dispatching the wrong person, and it's going to spark unprecedented side scale unrest. Yeah, it is. It's already happened. It's already happened in cases before, okay? In Chicago in particular, where Hispanics were out there during 2020, they were out there randomly attacking black people, and black people got at them. So it's gonna be a thing where you're gonna cross the wrong person. You're gonna get the wrong person's daughter, the wrong person's sister, the wrong person's girl. You're gonna cross the wrong person. They're gonna come get at you. It's gonna be that. And then what is Brandon Johnson gonna say then? Then when it becomes a bloodbath, because it's not that. Crime is actually on the positive note going down. But if the illegals are allowed to go around and just go unchecked and unwarranted without any type of supervision, they're untouched. Imagine they do the wrong thing. They touch the wrong woman. They violate her in some way. And then the black community, now they got to get at them because you're not going to do nothing about it. Now there's bloodshed all throughout the city of Chicago. Imagine that happening. We don't want that to happen. But he's not thinking that far ahead. It's unfortunate. So as of right now, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be totally honest. Trump needs to get them all out, and as soon as possible. Absolutely, as soon as possible. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But as far as we're concerned right now, deportations are looking up. Deportations are the way they're supposed to go. ICE is doing what they need to be doing. That's good. The National Guard, as long the National Guard ain't even out here and ICE is out here, that's great. I prefer it that way. I want it to stay that way. I want it to stay that way. So let's see what's going on. We're gonna keep you up to date with this story. We're gonna keep you up to date, family. But that'll conclude things as far as Brandon Johnson. Okay, and I think it's very clear, Brandon Johnson, with the midterms coming up, your stance on reparations. I'm very glad that we had this opportunity to remind everybody where you stand on reparations. Now, when the midterms come up, you in particular are going to be trying to rally a lot of black people to get out there and vote, to get out there and support the Democratic Party. So it's very good that we take these opportunities to refresh the community on exactly where you stand. Oh, it's so good. I'm glad that they brought up reparations. I'm glad, and I'm glad that he fumbled the bag again. I'm glad. Just so we know exactly where we stand. Okay. So we know as far as getting up off this couch, it don't look like we need to be doing that. It don't look like we need to be doing that no time soon, to be very honest with you. No. Nope. Not at all. Family, we got some good stuff coming up for you. I got to get ready for some stuff. I had a busy weekend, had a lot to do, a lot of work got done. Thankfully, shout out to you all for being here with us this evening. I got to get out of here. Got to get some stuff done. The work never stops, but I appreciate you guys' support. I appreciate you guys listening, y'all liking, y'all subscribing, all of that. Thank you very much, family. Glad to see you guys in here. We're on a roll. We're starting the week off pretty strong. That's good. This will conclude this evening's live stream. I appreciate y'all. Y'all be safe as always. Black first. Y'all have a good one. Be safe, family. Stay blessed.